We will be going over the workings of the crystal light system, how to mount the crystal lights onto the tripod, how to use the light bar, and all the programs and buttons and things like that. Right now, we have the base unit mounted onto the tripod. In a previous video, you saw how to mount the tripod, how to set it up and get it oriented for best use. I'm going to slide off the base unit so we can get a better look at what's underneath. So we have the head of the tripod, and on the underside of the base unit we have what's called a shoe for the tripod. So this shoe will slide into notched grooves, and you just heard a click, and what that click is, on one side we have a push button, on the other side we have a screw. The push button is what you heard with a click. So in order to move this shoe on and off, you need to push that button in, and then the shoe can come right off. To get it on, ideally push it in and it'll slide on. If you push it in without pushing that button, you're going to hear it click. Not a big deal, it just makes it a little bit easier sometimes when you push the button in. Once we have the shoe in place, we need to tighten down the shoe so it doesn't slide back and forth and doesn't give you wobble. We're going to take a piece of glass as pretending to be something, a surface on top. Now the reason why we're doing this is so you can see this piece here. Normally you would be able to turn this a full 360 degrees. But since we have something covering that, you can only do 180 before it bangs into it. So how do we get around that? This is going to come set up so you shouldn't have to adjust this, but if you do, you're going to need to pull this knob out and then turn it. And what that does is allows you to reorient the lever without moving the bolt on the inside. So you can make this, in effect, tighter by pulling it out, turning the knob, and then turning it again. Pull out and turn it again. So that way, if there's something on top, you can still get to it and move it around. So you heard it click, and on the underside we turn the lever and now it's stiff. We're going to go over some of the buttons right now. We have a 3-position switch in the front. This is for the pink lights, the full spectrum lighting. There's a low position, a high position, and then an off position in the middle. On this side we have the attachment point for the light bar. On the other side, the red on and off power switch. And further along right here is the input for the power supply. On top, we have set, which is memory, program, which changes the lights from one to another, and we'll go over this in a little bit, and then the speed, positive and negative, for faster or slower. When you are inserting the light bar wires, it only goes in one way. There's a push button that you need to push in order to remove it. Not for putting in, but just removing. You hear a positive snap, and that means it's in place. I'm doing this with one finger, but I'm pushing that button with my finger and then pulling out. Now that we have the light bar in place, and all the cords attached. We can go ahead and flip the red switch on the side to turn on the power. And then you'll start to see various light programs go on. Let's first talk about the workings of the light bar, how to move it forward and back. Light bar simply moves up and down, forward and backward. Like this, and like that. This one is very tight right now because it will have a small break-in period where things will get a little bit looser and easier to move. The armatures for the crystals themselves each have the ability to move left, right, up, down in a variety of positions, so you can really get into an ideal setup for each client. The extreme end on either side has 1 digit more than the rest of these, and that is because when you are setting it up, it goes down and into the body. It still is in line with the rest of these. So we did that for greater flexibility with your clients. When you push the program button, it will allow it to change colors. And so we're going to walk through the colors with you right now. We're starting with purple on the side closer to the camera and red closer to me. We pushed program once already, and what that did is changed it over to a pulse now. So we have purple pulsing, blue pulsing, light blue pulsing, green pulsing, yellow, amber, red. So each of these are pulsing, and they can be controlled with the speed, with the positive and negative. So you can slow down the pulse or speed it up. The next color scheme is reverse. So we have purple over on my side and red closer to the camera. And these are the chakra colors that correspond to the body going from the crown on down to the root. And the next one when we push is going to be the pulsation of this. The next color scheme is a running of all of these colors. They are running through the whole field, and you can change the speed of this as well. Next color scheme is a warming color where it has reds, oranges, and yellows. The next one is a kaleidoscopic, where this kaleidoscopic one gives you all the different colors as well. Really beautiful effects on the kaleidoscopic. The next one is purples and blues primarily. So we had reds, yellows, oranges, kaleidoscopic, and then the purples and blues. All of this is written down on a sheet that is sent with you as well. The next color is all red, going through from the root chakra color, giving somebody, and the next one is the yellow or amber, and the next one is yellowish green, and then full green, light blue, purple, and finally 100% white. And so those are the colors, and again there'll be a sheet with all those written down. If you like a color scheme and you want it to remain in the memory, you're going to pick the color and press set. Let's find one that we like. And now I'm going to press set. So what that means is when we turn off the power and we come back on and turn it back on, it will still be in the memory. It'll be the first thing that shows up. The next item we're talking about is the full spectrum lighting. So when we press the black 3-position switch in the front of the bar, it will light up the underside of this with one ultraviolet infrared LED, which is called full spectrum. This one has a low setting and a high setting as well as off. There's a separate video explaining the benefits of the full spectrum lighting that you can review at your leisure. The Vogel holders have rubber inserts. These may or may not be already installed. If they're not installed, they're going to be partnered with the associated crystal, meaning that each crystal is a specific size, so we need to keep these rubber rings with these crystals to make sure that we don't get one that's too big or too small and the crystal falls out or doesn't fit in it correctly. If your system came with all of the rubber rings installed already, that means every single crystal is the same size and they will each fit any of these rings independently. So the ring itself is a convex concave design. There is a bottom part that's wider than the top part. And the bottom lip, which is fatter, is going to sit in a groove in the top of the holder. How do you know what is the top and what is the bottom? If you can see the LED, that is the full spectrum, that's the bottom. You can also physically feel an indentation right in the top. So you stick it in one area and gently work it around with your finger. It will come out if you pull hard enough, but it's just in there loosely right now. You can then take your crystal, put it in, and I push it a little down just to give it a nice snug fit. When it's time to take it out, just pull and wiggle and it comes right out. So very straightforward. These come out. You can put it in, sit your crystal in place, and the crystal's perfectly centered. And in this case, the ring is actually holding the crystal in place. I wouldn't run this way because it may fall out, but you certainly can run it right side up. A small word about the crystals is that the crystals are made by hand, they're ground by hand, and some of them will have a different attribute. Maybe one might be a little bit longer than another, one might be a little bit fatter than the other. It's all a part of the process of mining genuine crystals. If all of these crystals were lab grown, they'd all be perfect and the same. They'd be absolutely clear inside. The crystals that you'll receive, some of them may have small inclusions, fissures, things like that, all perfectly normal. You can see on this one right here, there's a small inclusion. And it doesn't affect the working of the crystal, but it does give you an idea that, these are made from the earth, and, each one's unique, just like our fingerprints.